All right. Welcome, everybody. Ged, it's been a minute. How's it going, buddy?
Oh, living the battle, bud. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
All right.
I got something I think you'd enjoy to hear.
All right.
So my youngest, or not my youngest, my son, Cole, was early into Star Wars and then quickly fell out of it. No interest whatsoever. And he's kind of been liking some like kitty cartoon stuff where I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I think I'm ready to pull the Lord of the Rings card on him.
Ooh.
And I asked him, and I had to beg him.
All right.
He thought it might be too scary, wasn't that interested. I'm like, buddy, you love like elves and all this stuff. I'm like, let's just give it a shot. And it's gonna open up with like a big dark battle. And if you're not into it, then we'll try it again another day.
Okay.
Literally absolutely hooked to the point where we blew through the first trilogy, then watched the entire Hobbit trilogy. And he's like, what? Is that it? That's it? That's it? I'm like, well, there is a TV show. He's like, well, let's watch it.
Let's go.
I'm like, okay. I'm like, I gotta check. I'm like, I can't remember if they swore in Rings of Power or like what was going on in it, but I went by. I'm like, okay. I'm like, it shouldn't be any different than the movies. And now we're watching it, and like, I know we talked about Rings of Power a little bit. I know lots of people didn't like in the lore, but like for a 7-year-old, this kid is like hanging on every word, every action across all the properties. You can't get enough.
I love it.
Get enough. But mind you, it's like sitting beside someone who asks 1,000 questions. Is that Gandalf? Is that Gandalf? Why did they send him down? Which color is he? Is he going to be more powerful? Blah, blah, blah. Like just so into it. I'm just like, it was so cool to see like that excitement and passion.
That is awesome.
You know,
that is so good.
I've had to explain a Isildur's sword so many times now. Why is it special? Is it magical? Why did the undead not like why was Aragorn able to fight the undead with it? Why was he able to call them with it? And then he's like watching the show. Oh, that's a Isildur Rings of Power? Does he have his sword? Did they know he has a sword? I'm like, yes, buddy. It's a Isildur sword because it's his sword.
Yeah.
It's been funny.
Good. Any regrets not starting with The Hobbit because it's technically when the story started?
No regrets. I'm a big believer of watching them as how they were released. Just like when I first showed him Star Wars, I showed him A New Hope first.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think that's the way it's meant to be.
Fair.
Would you watch them in chronological order first?
Well, I was thinking that if I was getting someone into the MCU, for example, for the first time, would I watch it in release or chronological? I don't know.
Release.
Yeah. Well, clearly that's how you sit on for this. So yeah.
Well, anyways, we're not here to talk about Lord of the Rings or MCU.
No.
We are here because Star Wars is finally back. We get the premiere of the final season 3 of The Bad Batch. Last year they gave us 2-episode premiere. This year we get a 3-episode premiere, which is nice. I love when they're able to string it together. Yep. All the episodes fit together narratively, so it was a 3-episode arc, which I appreciate. We start off setting the stage for Omega and what life has been like in Mount Tantiss. She's, more or less a prisoner, counting down her days, but like she is, I don't know. I really like Omega's character. She's just such pure like optimism and just, everything.
Faith in people, trust.
Yeah. And at first, when they first show that scene where she passes Crosshair in the hall, I'm like, oh, my Crosshair is so broken. He doesn't they don't even acknowledge each other. But then you find out, it's a plan. Like she's secretly going to talk to him the whole time. Like they just don't want to cause attention. So I like the way she's kind of working. She's staking the place out, trying to figure out, how she's going to do her thing, and all the little things they touch on in that first episode. Because that first episode's really just all set up, and all the things they introduce come into play in the latter couple episodes.
Yep, love, and I've grown to love Lamasse's character.
Yep,
for obvious reasons. Yeah, it was such a good start.
There's a funny moment with her where she's whispering to Omega, and I'm like, why the fuck is she talking like that? it was like the most like whimsical whispering I think I've ever heard in my life. It was
Listen.
it yeah. It just seemed so odd.
Yeah, like all right. Okay.
But yeah, so we find out Tantiss, there is essentially a perimeter. They have these hounds that guard kind of the very close perimeter, but outside that there is creatures that they're pretty much assumed if you're out there you're gonna die.
Yeah, the
so that's kind of what they set up. And then we catch up with our other clones. It's at this point it's just Hunter and Wrecker because Echo's still with Rex doing their clone recruitment thing, whatever there was they're doing, or saving clones.
Yep.
It's been a while since that second season. And they bring in a bounty to get more clues as to where Omega might be and where Hemlock's research lab is. And they go to an old lab, and we kind of get treated like a little bit of some horror aspects, which I greatly appreciaed.
Yeah,
everything like the little vine creatures. When they cut off and they just started getting up and walking. And then it was like a lot of it was shot a lot from a flashlight's perspective, so it's good. I enjoy like the monster of the week stuff when it's like done right. So it's interesting.
The difference in this monster of the week and the stuff we had in season 2 is this is all still now moving to the main story.
Yeah, it's moving.
Now I realize this is the last season, so everything's going to be about the main story. But that was our big complaint. Season 2 is nothing had to do with the overarching story, and
there's 92% filler.
Yeah. But from the first 2 episodes, and you may touch on this in a couple minutes. Obviously, the biggest takeaway for me was the difference in growth. Like they come across these regs, as they call them, that are basically abandoned, and in any other season, when all this started, they wouldn't have even considered helping them at all. They might have just discarded them. And it's so different after having Omega with them for 2 seasons or however long that's actually been. Yeah. Like just seeing like Wrecker interacting with these kids from the word go is so different than Wrecker episode 1, season 1. And I think it's important to point that out because they are not the same.
Yeah, because they'd be fighting in the mess hall. Like they were outcasts. Yeah. So,
but even Wrecker being like super kind kids, it's never something you would have seen. You can definitely see the change in them.
Well, and also the backdrop has changed as well, right? The Empire's phasing out clones. So now it's not like I have 1,000 brothers who piss me off. It's like, oh, like my brothers are dwindling. Like we gotta save them all.
Yep.
So Palpatine's had a bit of a play in that.
Yep.
Speaking of Emperor Palpatine, what a grand entrance he gets. I was literally watching that episode. I'm like, wow, there is a lot of Republic not Republic, but there's a lot of commandos. There's a lot of stormtroopers. Like literally there's patrols of 4 like every second. I'm like, what's, and then literally Omega's like, oh gee, there's lots of troopers around today. Like, oh, it's a guest coming. So love Palpatine when he shows up. Looks great. Sounds great. It almost felt like it was McDermott voicing him. I don't know. Maybe it is.
So good.
But yeah, love Palpatine. And essentially everyone's known this, like what the cloning on Mount Tantiss was for, because obviously it pulls from EU. But obviously we knew it was going to be for cloning Palpatine himself.
It doesn't show it in that though, does it?
It doesn't show it, but
you walk through all the defenses and he just stands there. And
it's very heavily implied that it's him. And then they talk about the M count. The reason why it's failing is because the M count, and that's the midichlorian count, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to clone a force sensitive person, which we see like Moff Gideon trying to do in the Mandalorian, right? So this stuff's been in play now for a while, which leads up to obviously the Rise of Skywalker. And even then, well, I guess they got the midichlorian part right because he was super powerful. But it's all about the M count. And in this episode, and in these episodes, I think I've seen the most amount of blood I've seen in a Star Wars episode. Yeah. They've been showing this blood sample ticker going around and around. And my biggest gripe with the entire episode relates to that. And maybe just because I don't understand. They're like she takes Omega's blood for all we know hundreds of times to go get it tested.
Yeah.
I know they've been disposing of it, but if someone came up negative for midichlorians, like why would you keep retesting it? Like, are they expecting one clone to all of a sudden become force sensitive? And since they're all clones and they all share a genetic strain, like,
Yeah.
I didn't quite get what the point of what they were doing. I understand screening everybody once,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe even doing a second test just in case the first one was, a false negative. But I didn't.
Yeah, they definitely could have
understand.
changed that part of the story around it. Would have gotten rid of that gap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again,
No,
I don't know if I'm perceiving it wrong, but it seemed like they kept checking the clones for someone to have the right DNA, and they just, they even mentioned at the beginning, oh, we ruled out Crosshair early on.
Yeah.
So it made it seem as if they weren't testing Crosshair anymore because they just knew he wasn't. But I just, they were poking Omega quite a bit. It seemed it didn't seem logical to retest her that many times.
Yeah, it's fair. It's interesting though. If her midichlorian count is so good, but it's almost counterintuitive. Like we've talked about how much we like the fact that there's no force sensitive people in.
Yeah.
And now we've got somebody with a strong midichlorian count who is not force sensitive, or they are, but they don't know it.
And that's the other big confirmation, right? Is Omega's force sensitive.
Yeah.
And people speculated that way back in season 1, like, oh, will she be? Will she won't? And I think you and me are probably happy she wasn't. But
Correct.
now we get confirmation she is. So like,
yeah, and I'm okay with her having high midichlorians, being force sensitive. It doesn't mean she has to start moving stuff with her mind. It's okay that she doesn't.
I guess it fits with the narrative of what the Ahsoka series kind of taught us, and even the Last Jedi to that mark anyway, that everyone has some sort of force sensitivity. It's just whether or not you train and work at it. But if she has a high enough count where they're going to use her to clone Palpatine, I would, again, I don't know the cloning process because it sounds like the clones do have some midichlorian count to begin with. They just need a better strand, whatever they're using, to combine with Palpatine to get it to the appropriate level. But it'd be, not that they have to go into the science of things. I know it's sci-fi fantasy and it's all make believe, but it'd be nice to get like a little more details on what they're actually doing.
Well, they make a comment at the very end that it's undisrupted by the source.
Or there's no degradation or something like that. I think they said,
So it's just the fact that it's a pure strand.
Yeah, because we know the clone strands are degrading, and like the original sample was not, was falling apart essentially. Well, that's why Omega was so important from the get-go in season 1.
Yep.
Yeah.
So who's she a clone of? Is she a female clone of?
Well, I always figured she was.
Fett?
Yeah, I always figured she was Jango's. But yeah, how'd she get the force sensitivity?
It'd be interesting to see if at the end of this series we find out that she's a clone of somebody else.
Yeah. Because she was a secret project, right? Like no one kind of knew that she was really a clone.
Like they have the DNA of Leia Organa or something like that. Like that'd be kind of a neat tie-off at the end.
Yeah, it would be neat to find out she's a clone, but not of the Fett strand.
Yeah.
She's not Boba's sister. Yeah, so let me just see. So I want to get your opinion on the season in general. With this being the last season, and none of the Bad Batch characters have shown up in future properties, do you think we're heading to a point where we're going to have multiple characters killed off? Because they've already off tech, right? Last season.
I want to say no. They keep referring to this island about where people can have their fresh start.
That's
and
true.
Then when those kids mentioned it, they said, our mission is not over yet.
Yeah.
I would like to. This is one of those ones where I actually really would like a happy ending.
They just
Crosshair, I don't think will make it. He'll make the ultimate sacrifice. Like We know that that's how that's going to play out, and I really hope that that's the case.
Yeah,
but I
he's
would
getting the
like to
redemption arc
see,
for sure.
yeah, I would like to see the Hunter, the Wrecker, and Omega move off and start a different life.
Yeah. I was talking about it in my Discord group a little bit, and I think it was me and Corbin both thought that where you're going to see them all die, but Omega's the survivor. They all sacrifice themselves to get Omega safe.
Yeah. I mean, I hope not. It's not how I would like to see this season end. However, I think it'll be good no matter what. I mean, my first impressions of this season already, that it's already better than season 2.
Yeah.
I thought it started off so well. The story's arching so well. Like I'm really happy with how it started.
Yeah. And I'm actually surprised they got away in the end. I thought 100% the way things were set up and things that were mentioned, I thought for sure they were going to get to that shuttle, put out the distress call to Hunter, give their location, and then they would get recaught.
Yeah.
And then things would get escalated speed-wise because they know that now she has the blood. They're going to do whatever they need to do to her.
Mm-hmm.
And Hunter and Wrecker got to come somehow save them in that fortress. But they got away. So that's an interesting... I wasn't expecting that. So we'll see where they end up going with that.
How many episodes is this? Do we know? Because like these are 3. Are there 15 or are there 8? Like I'd be curious to see how fast they're going to move this story.
Well, I'm just looking now. Season 2 was 16 episodes. Season 1 was 16 as well. So we got some episodes.
Yeah.
If they keep the same amount.
Yeah.
I also wonder if Hemlock messes up, will Palpatine just come in and clean house? Because remember he said, "Oh, I want that promotion." He's like, "Oh, all in due time."
Mm-hmm.
And he expressed that this project is of the greatest importance to the survive.
He's like the one guy that can do it, though.
Yeah,
I don't think.
And Hemlock also had a line very similar to Vader at the beginning of Jedi when he says, the Emperor is not as forgiving as I am, Commander. So
yeah.
And then he said the Emperor isn't as understanding or something like that as I am.
Yeah.
So they alluded to that if the Emperor doesn't like what he sees, he's just gonna. I wonder if they're gonna set up a game over for Hemlock, because that cloning project could get moved to. I'm trying to think of the timeline we're in now. Thrawn's gone. He's in the other.
Mm-hmm.
No, wait. No, this is before Rebels. It could move to some with Thrawn. We could see some with Gideon, maybe like in their younger careers. I don't know. Like, they could potentially move that project, right? Because we see those cloning aspects in the Mandalorian. So we'll see. Maybe you see something in Exegol. Like,
yeah. Ooh, that'd be kind of cool.
By the end of it, yeah.
Do you think Lamase will make it through the next episode?
Through the next episode?
Yeah, or do you think she's basically donezo's? She's gonna be sushi dinner by the end of the next episode.
Yeah, I don't know if she's gonna last the season, but like she's the only one they need, though. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Is she the last Kaminoan, do you think?
It would look that way. And she's their science officer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know I don't think she's long in it.
No, not after what just happened.
Yeah. The only random other note I had to talk about, and it's not even really related to this at all, but I was thinking about cloning and I was thinking about Palpatine, and when they were like teased, like he was looking at like a test subject in there, but they didn't show it, I immediately thought to the Rise of Skywalker, why did his clones have the Force lightning scars? You'd think he'd look like a nice Sheev Palpatine. Like,
yeah, you'd think so, actually, wouldn't you? Yeah.
I was just like, they just wanted to keep the look. Were they confused that the audience might not know it's Palpatine if he was like all handsome and shit? I don't know.
Or in his form, so they didn't know who is who.
Yeah. And like I know like he wasn't fully formed, but when he sucked their life force in, he got fully formed and he still looked wrinkly as hell, didn't he?
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. So if someone could tell me that in the comments, is that just a blaring like plot hole. I know there's a lot of plot holes in the Rise of Skywalker, but is that a glaring one?
All right.
Oh yeah, my mind went there, right? I'm like, oh, if they're gonna show it, I'm like, are we gonna see like a nice smooth faced like Sheev from like episode 1? I thought would be like a nice little touch, but then I was like, wait a second, Rise of Skywalker didn't have a nice looking Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah, no. Interesting. Yeah. I wonder what they're going to do with all these when they actually work, because it's obviously the one of the Rise of Skywalker is clearly a clone. We're all pretty much on that same page.
It's a clone. Yeah.
So like, what do they do when they're created? Do they just like keep them somewhere until the one gets chucked off a bridge? Like
yeah,
are they all hanging out on Exegol? Like, where are they?
Yeah, like in this timeline, do they get close to making? Like, it sounds like they could already make a Palpatine that's like that has some force sensitivity, but not fully up to his power.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are they just like executing them when they don't meet their criteria? I don't know.
Recycling them out.
Yeah,
getting the rope
to your point,
for the next one.
You know, they could get a bunch spun up and have them be, you know, body doubles.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the old Padme Queen Amidala switcheroo going on.
Yeah. But it does also make me think, because not to jump back to the Rise of Skywalker, but it's not like he was mobile.
No.
So there's obviously some gapping in this cloning.
Yeah, he needed
because he was attached
apparatus.
to that. Yeah, the giant arm just to be upright.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact that he had to, like, it looked pretty crude where he was getting cloned. So, like, does Mount Tantiss project fail?
That's what I'm wondering.
Like, yeah, they have the tech, like the technology, or at least some of it, but the actual facility and stuff like that maybe gets destroyed, maybe fails some sort of way, because yeah, it's pretty crude looking in the Rise of Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Or I don't know, like, is he cloning Snoke, creating Snoke right now? No, it's got to be him. It's got to be him. But he said that Hemlock did say, though, he was creating other creations and weapons for the Empire.
You wonder if one of them Snoke?
Well, yeah. Look, Palpatine's like, oh, that's good and all, but that's not why I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And we found out he made those vine things on the horror planet. So I can't help. Maybe they got Snoke bacon in there as well.
Snoke looks like bacon.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be. There's a lot of different ways they could go with this, and a lot of different plot threads to connect to or not to connect to. Right. So, I'm intrigued. I've been pretty excited for this season. I know season 2 was pretty much trash up until that final arc, because that whole tech sequence I thought was well done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited. Let's give this a score. What do you got?
Oh, you're up first. I scored first last time.
Did you? Okay. Wasn't like nothing was really blown away. They were more so moving the story forward. I like, again, it's good development for the clones. It's good development for Omega. Since it's a premiere, I'm excited. Palpatine was there. I give it like a solid 8-1 for all 3 episodes.
Okay.
Which, yeah.
I'm going to be a little lower. I'm going to be 7-9. It didn't give me 8 because it was exactly what I wanted from it. But there was nothing for me that took it over an 8 that took me out of my realm. I was like, oh, it was exactly what I wanted to see. Again, 7-9, 8-8-1, all great scores. It was exactly what we needed to start it off.
Yeah, it was good. Great setup to, relaying out what the stakes are, and very clear with it right from the get-go. So hopefully we now don't run into 11 straight episodes of,
shit.
Side quests.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. That will wrap it up for us. Let us know in the comments, everyone, what you thought of the premiere of The Bad Batch, and where you think the season is going to go. We will see you all hopefully next week, Wednesday.
I like it.
Yeah. All right. Peace out, everyone.